Hello everyone, this is Dr. Leela. Today I'll be discussing on what is inflation, what are the causes of inflation, what are the types of inflation and how inflation is measured. Please do subscribe my channel. Inflation. What is inflation? Inflation, you can define it as it is a situation in which there is persistence and appreciable increase in the general level of price. Then, what is general level of price? General level of price is a hypothetical daily measure of overall prices for some set of goods and services in an economy. The general level of prices indicated by price indices. When you talk about inflation, inflation can be high, moderate or low. If general price falls, inflation turns negative, and this phenomenon is called as deflation. Both high inflation and deflation are not desirable for an economy. Why? Because high inflation hurts consumer as it reduces their purchasing power, whereas deflation hurts producers because they get lower price for their products. Therefore, this reduces profit and in some cases they incur losses also. As a result, economic growth slows down. Causes of inflation. Causes of inflation. Here, inflation can be based on the factors causing increase in aggregate demand for commodities, or factors that increase cost of production, or factors causing inadequate supply. In detail, we will see. Factors causing increase in the aggregate demand for commodities. Here, when we talk about factors causing, then what are the factors causing? The first and major factor is increase in population. If there is increase in population, the aggregate demand for the products also increases in the market. And if increase in non-plan and plan expenditure. So when there is increase in non-plan and plan expenditure, what happens? The demand for the commodities also increases. And not only that, increase in per capita income due to the economic development, or if there is increase in spending by the government on employment programs and welfare schemes, then also demand for the commodity increases. If there is increase in heavy investment on development projects, or reduction in the direct taxes, in all these cases what happens? Demand for the commodities increases. Second one, factors that increase cost of production. Here, when cost of production increases, if there is increase in tax rate, if there is excessive wear and tear of machinery, if they are importing the raw material or assembled goods at the higher prices, or if there is lack of optimum allocation of resources in the organization, when devaluation of domestic currency takes place in the economy, if inefficient management is there in the organization, or lack of control of waste expenditure. In all the cases, what happens? Your cost of production increases. When cost of production is increasing, what happens? There is decrease in the productivity and also decrease in the profit structure. And the last one is factors causing inadequate supply. Then what are the factors which cause inadequate supply? Here, if there is failure of monsoon, floods, shortage of investment, underutilization of the productive capacity which is available in the organization, and also power shortage also you can take it as example under factors causing inadequate supply. Types of inflation. Types of inflation discussed on two headings, that is on basis of rate of inflation and on basis of cost. On basis of rate of inflation, inflation are of four types: creeping inflation, walking inflation, running inflation and hyperinflation. The first one is creeping inflation. Creeping inflation is defined as when there is rise in price is very small, we will call it as creeping inflation. And this type of inflation, it is not harmful, but it is necessary for the economic growth as well as for the economic expansion. And the second one is walking inflation. Walking inflation, it ranges between 3% to 10%, and this type of inflation is harmful to the economy, and it is the warning signal for the government to control before it turns into running inflation. And third one is running inflation. When you talk about running inflation, this is also called as galloping inflation. It is the indication that there is that strong monetary and fiscal measures are required, and this type of inflation, it is dangerous if it is not controlled. Under this inflation, currency of the country will lose value in the global economy, which leads to instability in the economy. And the fourth one is hyperinflation. Hyperinflation, it is caused mainly by the excessive deficit spending by the government, or you can define as caused by rapid increase in the money supply in the economy. Roots of this inflation lies to the political rather than the economic cause. Here, under this inflation, purchasing power of the money falls continuously. And the second one is on basis of the cost. On basis of the cost, you have again two types of inflation: demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. The first one is demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation, if the inflation is caused by an increase in the aggregate demand for commodities over aggregate supply, then we will call it as demand pull inflation. Then what is cost push inflation? Here, when price increases due to increase in the cost of production, and inflation caused by rise in cost of production is called as cost push inflation. How do we measure inflation? Inflation is defined as increase in the general price level, and for measuring inflation accurately, we need to assess the general price level. In return, the general price level is measured by price index. Then what is price index? It is the weighted average of the prices of a selected basket of goods and services relative to their prices in some base year. Or else you can define in another words as it is a measure of relative price changes for a given class of goods or services in a given region during a given interval of time. You have a formula for calculating the price index. Price index, the formula is price at specific time divided by price at the basic time into 100. Why we need to multiply with 100? Why? Because inflation always calculated in terms of percentage. Price index. Price indices are measured with the help of two elements, that is consumer price index and wholesale price index. First one, consumer price index. Consumer price index, it is an index of the prices of essential commodities in the retail market, and it measures the average level of the prices of goods and services that are consumed by an urban family. This index is measured on monthly basis by Bureau of Labor Statistics. This index comprises of a basket of essential commodities that are purchased by an average consumer. Why you need to calculate consumer price index? Why? Because it is used to monitor the changes in the cost of living over time. Consumer price index, it focuses to track inflation and also helps in monetary policy to take decision in order to control the inflation. It also measures the inflation at the final stage of the transaction. The second one, wholesale price index. What is wholesale price index? It is an index of the prices that are prevailing in the wholesale market. This index is also measured on monthly basis as consumer price index. The wholesale price index measures the inflation at the beginning stage or the first stage of transaction or at the primary stage. It measures the average change in the price received on bulk sale of goods, and it is published by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Thank you.